I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are questioning their faith or deconstructing their faith. And so if you're watching this on the replay, hi. A little background about me. I grew up Protestant, evangelical Christian, and I started questioning my faith in my mid-20s. And some of the big things for me, since again, I came from a Protestant evangelical background, the doctrine of hell, that was a big one, and the inerrancy of the Bible. Hey, Em. Good to see you. Hi, Krista. Hello. Hi, Ron. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Thursday. Oh, it's already Thursday. Happy Thursday. I'm doing fine. Yeah, thanks for asking. Hi, put. Well, if you're new here, hi, I'm Sarah. Rose, hey, Kel, hi. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and switch it over to follower only comments before we get the crazy comments. Oops. Oh, wait, did I not do it? I didn't do it. Oh, no, I did do it. Thanks, Brian. Hi, Brian. Okay. I feel like it's supposed to say that I did subscriber only comments. Oh well. Hi, Jim. I don't think you can do it directly on your phone, Rose. Driver, I'm going gorilla. Oh, hey. If you have not yet met Checkers, this is Checkers. She likes to hang out during the lives. And then, oh, that's Ruby. I'm sorry, I can't. Oh, God. That's okay. Well, that was Ruby. Hey, Winter. Yeah, I thought I'd go ahead and do another one. Good Lord. Holy crap. I feel like it's supposed to be set on subscribers only. Whew. It's a lot of craziness. Hi, Flynn. Yeah. Yeah, Rose, that was worse than normal. I keep setting this, I have the settings for followers only, but I don't know that it's working because it never like came up. Hi from Montana. Hello, hello. So if anyone's new, hi, I'm Sarah. And Charles, can you see if you have the ability to do that, to set it for subscriber only chat? Yeah, isn't it weird that when Deconstruction Goes Live. He never gets those comments. Yeah, it is interesting. Being a woman on the internet is super fun. Oh, hi from Japan. Well, at any rate, oh shoot, that's a bummer. Maybe if I like turn it off and then turn it back on. Oh, it's like it won't let me. Ugh, it's really weird. Hi. Well, sorry that I'm not able to, I'm trying to set it to subscriber only and like it won't let me do it. Why can I not? Oh, there, I did it. Whew, that was crazy. Thank goodness. Guys, that was crazy. Oh my gosh, Mike. That was incredibly kind. Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hi. That was really, really kind of you. Well, I hope you're having a good night, Mike. Yes, MVP for Mike. Hi, Rachel. Yeah, that was wild. Okay, so what do y'all want to chat about? No, Rose, I didn't either. I'm glad it's us now. So for anyone new, I was able to make it sub only. I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you, Mike. Can we talk about existing as a woman? Yeah, Brian was just saying how it's interesting that when Justin goes live, he doesn't get comments like that. It's weird. Ugh, yeah, I believe you, Brian. Well, it's really nice to meet you too, Mike. Okay, what's the stream topic for today? So I made a video today on TikTok about heaven, but so we could definitely talk about that. But also we can just talk about something else too. That's interesting, yours truly. You know, I do think YouTube also has a higher percentage of men. What would it take for you to believe in God again? It would take evidence. Yeah, if I had evidence, then I would believe. And Chip says, even as a Christian, I thought heaven was kind of a weird idea. Well, JJ, Justin does have like Doug the rock god. Do you think Rory Gilmore's true love is just Mariano? Yes, I do. Do you think the church system is a business? Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm also much, much more familiar with the structure of the Protestant church compared to the Catholic or Orthodox. Um, yeah, Otter, I agree with you. So Otter says, does free will exist in heaven and is heaven sin free? If both are yes, then why not on earth? Absolutely. Yep, I agree with you. So do you believe in Satan? I do not. Oh yeah, Jonathan said, just watch the video debunking Noah's Ark. Man, there's so many holes in that thing. It's such a rough story. And what's really frustrating to me is not the audacity of the story, but the justification that I hear from Christians for why God had to literally kill everyone. Because you basically have to get to a point where you're saying, God taking the lives of children is good. And there's a lot of mental gymnastics you have to do to get there. What kind of relationships, Max? Do you agree that cookie dough is Ben and Jerry's best flavor? I don't know. I haven't had enough of their flavors to have an informed opinion. I should probably work on that. Dr. Joe disagrees, Kel. Winter says, we tend to think Christianity isn't that weird because we're used to it, but when you step back and look at it more objectively from the outside, once you've had time away from it, it is so weird. Yeah. Have a good dinner, Rose. Oh, yeah, Bart Ehrman's great. Does science answer all of your questions? No. There's some things science, like fields of science, don't have answers to. And there are some things, like science is limited to things that are measurable and repeatable. So, there are lots of things that if we can't measure it, we can't, experiment or do science. So there are certainly things that science either has not answered or may not ever be able to answer. JJ says, I find that Christians tend to defend fellow Christians' actions out of a sense of tribalism. Do you agree? Yes, with the caveat that they have this mechanism to remove someone from their tribe who they don't like. So the phrase, oh, they're not a real Christian. When they don't want to have to defend someone's action, then they're mentally kicked out of the tribe. Yeah, Paul says, I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. Chip says, I sometimes wish I could believe in heaven because, of course, I'd love to see my dad again. And with my mom's health failing, I don't know how much longer I'll have with her. Yeah, Chip, I can completely understand that. Yeah, I totally get why you'd want that to be real. Otter, you're doing great. Yeah, Becky says, for me, it didn't make sense that God created me in his image, yet my thoughts and convictions were completely different than his. Why? Yeah, absolutely. Like you'd think if you were made to be like a little version of God that you would have more in common. Winter says, yeah, I wonder what the religion is like and what it looks like to someone who's never been a Christian. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. What questions do you most want answered? Oh, it's interesting. I don't know. I'd like to understand abiogenesis better. That would be cool. Oh, you're good, Mike. Hi, Matthew. Yeah, Brian says philosophy and science are very different. Yeah, I understand science and I find philosophy to be really frustrating. um, yeah, it's just not my cup of tea. Hi, Winter. I don't know, Rachel. Oh, thank you, Mike, so much for the super chat. Chip says, sometimes I wish I could go back to school for more science classes as long as there's no math involved. Yeah, go for biology. Jim says, all efforts by atheists and secularists to help people find their way out of religion are nothing compared to the number of people religion drives away all on its own. I think that's particularly true here in the US. I'm in the US. And I think there are a lot of people who are horrified by the current iteration of what religion is starting to look like. Monthly says, it's unrelated, but how do you handle a friend who seems to be cutting you out? Yeah, I think you have to have just some open and honest communication. Try to address it directly and head on. And if they still won't talk about it, I think you have to walk away. Oh, nice, Chip. Was there a Bible verse that started your deconstruction? No, not one specifically. Justin, hi. Justin says, if God isn't real, explain rainbows. Checkmate atheists. That you would think then that there would be no more worldwide, well, no more floods. I guess we can have little floods. Oh, well, thank you, Monthly. I appreciate your kind words too. Yeah, David says, I've always wanted to hear God's voice audibly, but I haven't, so it is hard to believe God exists. I think that's completely reasonable. Legend says the top thing to get a person to leave Christianity is have them read the Bible. Yeah, it's interesting. So many of us who deconstructed, we we were some of the most devoted, and we deconstructed, some of us, because we really read the Bible and we dove deep into the text. And I know there are several people who deconstructed in seminary. Um, so yeah, I agree. Hey, Aaron. Chip says, how about light refraction through water? Nah, couldn't be that simple. Hi, Lamar. We actually haven't really picked a topic for tonight. We were talking about heaven earlier, though. Hi, Joey. Yes, Justin famously doesn't know anything about the Bible. Well, that's cool, Mike. Rachel says, how do Christians explain imaginary Bible crimes like witchcraft or sexual immorality? What do you mean by imaginary for those examples? I mean, sometimes like we talk about thought crimes. But yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by imaginary there. Paul said, oh, heaven is a place on earth. Remember that song? Well, now it's going to be in my head for the rest of the night. So thank you for that. Caleb says, does it comfort you knowing that Jesus will always be waiting on you? No, it doesn't. I genuinely don't think he exists. I don't think he's God. I don't think there is a God. So no, I'm sorry, but no. Shadow, I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking opinions about the new pope. I just I don't have a lot of, I don't know, I don't have a lot to weigh in on it. I don't really know that much about, him in particular. So I'm not going to be very helpful. um, Jim, so are you asking me what do I think is the best argument for God? And I mean, I don't actually want all Christians to stop believing. Like, that's not my desire. Oh no, he's a White Sox fan? Ah. Um, you have a question about Jesus, Salim? Mike says there are people that say they're Christian and don't act it. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. Rachel, that is hockey, but it's still the right city. Christopher says, I don't think Jesus was the Son of God either, but most historians agree he was a real person. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I think it's reasonable that he may have been a real person. Wider says, do you still believe in karma? I'm not sure if I do, but would really like the bad people of the world to have comeuppance. I get that, the comeuppance part a lot. A lot of people, because when I say, I think when we pass away, that's it. Like I don't believe in an afterlife. And I've been surprised at how many people that has upset because they really want the bad people to get their due. Um, and I can understand that, but I don't think it happens in a supernatural way. I think sometimes people get the consequences they deserve, and unfortunately, sometimes they don't. What do you think happens after death? So I think we just cease existing. What does acting like a Christian mean? The fruits of the Spirit, following the Sermon on the Mount, that kind of thing. Caleb, you already asked that question, and I already answered it for you. Aaron says, why are people so obsessed with what happens after death? I don't get it. Well, I mean, a huge proportion of humans are afraid of death. Most of us have never died, and, people don't get to come back and tell us what it's like. And so it's, it causes a lot of fear in people. Why do you think we cease existing? Because we know that consciousness is connected to brain activity. And so if your brain activity completely ceases, then there's no evidence that anything else is, that you're continuing on in any way. Rachel, I don't know that reference off the top of my head. No, Joey, I don't have a Venmo. You can use the super chat function if you want. Aaron says, I live life to the fullest. I don't really fear death anymore. That's awesome. Night Shift says, I actually want to stop existing when I die. Yeah, it's interesting, growing up in Christianity, having everlasting life, existing for eternity was the goal. That was the prize. But I have talked with several people who are like, no, I don't want to exist for infinity. That's unpleasant, that maybe ceasing to exist is just fine. Do the principles in the Bible actually work? Which ones, Lamar? Oh, well, thanks, Rachel. You can use the super chat function to do that. Yeah, Wider says existing forever sounds like it would be very boring after a while. There's only a finite number of things to do and experience. Lamar says, because I want to see my family again. That's why I'm curious about life after death. That makes sense. Yeah, I totally understand that. Becky says, I started watching a lot of near-death experiences when I started deconstructing, and it really helped me with afterlife stuff. Yeah, Becky, I follow a couple of hospice nurses over on TikTok, and I have found that to be really comforting. Yeah, Donald says, we don't know we are born, so when we die, we don't know either. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, Rachel. I'm so glad it was helpful. Rachel says, thank you, Sarah. Your channel has helped me to deconstruct very much. Thank you again. You're so welcome. Chip says, how does following hospice nurses comfort you? Yeah, and I think, the way that they describe people passing, um, I find it comforting that it's a pretty regular pattern. And for the most part, in hospice work, people are peaceful, and comforted. Obviously, that is not the way that everyone passes. Charles, did you see my text? But it gives me comfort that many people go peacefully. Yeah, Andrew says some people who have seizures have near death out of body experiences. I know from experience. Yeah, I mean, several people who regularly come to my lives have had near death experiences too. Hi, Heath. Heath says, what's the point of this channel? No hate, I'm genuinely curious. Most of us Catholic race people know deep down it's BS, but we don't make a fuss of it. So, Heath, I will say Protestant Christians in the US and Catholic Christians in the US have a very different culture. And I think that there's just a lot more acceptance in Catholicism for I go to church, I do the ritual, I go to mass, I take the Eucharist, and I go on with my life. That's certainly not all Catholics, but it's, I think, maybe more acceptable. But more frequently in Protestantism, the goal is for it to take over your life. Like in Protestantism, it's like your relationship with God is, supposed to be everything. And so for those of us who were Protestant and, um, it meant the world to us, like it was my whole life at one point. When you start to question it, it can be really isolating and really painful. Your whole world turns upside down. And there are a lot of people who genuinely believe it. And when you start questioning, you can't really talk to anyone in your community about it. So many of us, like our whole social network was our church. And I know when I went through that, I did not have anyone to talk to about it. I just had to go through that whole process alone. And so the purpose of my channel is for people who are going through that same process to have a safe landing place, you know, a place to get comfort and support. I don't know, Jim. Yours truly says, when I had seizures from addictions, it was blank and black. I don't remember any of them happening either, but I'm 3 years sober now. Congratulations. But says definitely no God happening at all. Sam says, hi, Sarah. You're spot on about Western culture, faith in general. Curious, what questions turned your life upside down? I've had the same experience as you did. So for me, the questioning process really started with questioning the doctrine of hell. Like, wait a minute, is it actually just that people suffer infinitely? That was a big one, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And eventually, I think the bigger question is, why do I believe the Bible is true? Like, how did I arrive at the conclusion that the Bible is true? Because I had been functioning just with the assumption that it was true. I just took for granted that it was true and didn't really question how I arrived there, not really deeply. And that was one of the questions that ended up turning everything upside down. Yeah, Matthew says mega churches with coffee shops, playgrounds, etc., seem designed to keep people in that one social circle, making it harder to leave. Absolutely. I mean, if your church is your whole life, it costs so much to not be part of that anymore. Oh, congrats, Andrew. Yeah, you bet, Heath. David says suffering seems to be default condition available here on earth, and yet Christians constantly speak on joy and peace that is achievable here on earth. I would say that Christians go back and forth about how much peace and joy is achievable here. When I express that I'm able to experience peace and joy, Christians often will kind of react by saying, "No, you're not. Like, you're only experiencing fake joy or false peace." But us Christians, we're experiencing real peace and true peace that comes from God. So implying that, yeah, they're just filled with peace and joy all the time. However, when I say, man, this was a really tough time, I went through this really difficult thing, then Christians will say, well, yeah, Jesus never promised you a good time. Like, suffering's part of life, and you'll be happy when you get to heaven, but you don't get to be happy here. So I think it does depend on the context. Yeah, J. Sarah, no, I don't think hell is just. Do you believe in evolution? So evolution is not a belief system, but I do accept the science of evolution. Yeah. Is that not control? Is what control, Alex? Patrick says, what's a good response when Christians say, why are you angry at God? Well, then my response is, I don't believe in God. I'm not angry with God. And sometimes they be like, yes, you are. And then there's nothing you can do. So if someone is determined to misunderstand you, it's not worth your time to try to change their mind. Gerard says, eternal suffering is not hell. That's not in the Bible anywhere. Hell is eternal separation from God. That's even less in the Bible. But what do you think eternal separation is going to be like? If a human chooses to want separation from God, how is God granting that not just? I am not choosing separation from God. I just don't think he exists. Wow, Nate. So it's okay, don't mute him yet. Nate says you're basing your beliefs off other people rather than your morality. Shows you're immature and need more God in your life. And then goes on to say, if you don't believe, that's your prerogative, but no reason to patronize. Okay, well, let's talk about your comment here. First, you're patronizing by assuming you understand my backstory and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Saying that I'm basing my beliefs off other people is factually incorrect. And I did follow my morality, and this is where my morality has led me. So if you don't connect to this channel, if you don't understand this channel, great, that's fine. This channel isn't for you. Nate, I just told you how you were wrong, but apparently you aren't able to listen. Again, Nate, I just told you. Holy moly. Yeah, no, that's fine. Gerard said, you said separation from God is not biblical. I said it's less biblical. I think there's really only one verse that clearly says that hell is just separation from God. But I'm asking you, what do you think that separation is like? Becky says, Nate out here helping the deconstruction cause. Indeed. Hi, Burning Hearts. How long has it been since you left the faith? It's been 16 years. Bun, no. Zachary says, I find it really challenging to deal with religious people, especially the ones who say, I don't like religion either. It's a relationship. Faith, it's religion that poison Christianity. Yeah, I find that comment frustrating too. It's misusing the word religion. I mean, if you worship a deity, you are participating in a religion. But I think it's also a way to distance yourself from any part of the religion that you don't like or reflects poorly. Alex says, I'm sorry, are you American? I am American. Yes, I'm sorry is probably appropriate. So you left as a teenager? No, I was in my mid-20s. Is religion the main topic? Leaving religion is the main topic. Mo says it's Paul who poisoned Christianity. You know what? I'm not going to argue that one. Becky says, anyone here married when they deconstructed? My husband is still Christian. It's definitely tough, but he's very supportive of my deconstruction, thankfully. I'm really glad. I'm glad that he's supportive. MA says, have you covered leaving religion but staying a believer? You know, MA, one of my absolute favorite books to recommend is Faith Unraveled by Rachel Held Evans. You know, she deconstructed a lot of her fundamentalist religion, but remained a believer. And I think that's a great, I don't know, a great connection, a great read for someone in that category. Oh, Susan Cottrell is good too. I haven't read her. Thank you so much, Patrick. Patrick says, thank you for the content and for the open acceptance. Have a wonderful weekend. And remember, a yay a day keeps the doctor away. Yay! I absolutely love that perspective, Patrick. Thank you. Hi, ASUN. I have a like an FAQ playlist on my page, and there's a whole video that tells you the backstory of why I don't believe anymore. Jay Sarah says, how is hell not just? It's deeply logical to let someone choose, and each case is handled by an omnipotent God. So there's your false assumption, Jay. You're assuming everyone is making an informed decision. And that just isn't true. So there, throughout history, have been billions of people who never even heard of Jesus. There are also people who just don't believe God exists. And so if I don't believe God exists, I can't choose whether I want to be with him or not because I don't think he's real. And so I'm not able to make that choice either. You're welcome. Did you ever believe in God? I did, yeah. King says, do you think people leaving faith is partially due to the increase in knowledge of technology? I think, I mean, right now, technology is playing a role in it just because of the easy access to information that we have. It is, what's the word I'm looking for? Incredibly much easier to get really good information. It's so accessible, and I think that really makes a difference. And then again, you know, social medias are allowing us to connect to each other so that you don't have to be alone in the process. Zachary says, I'm happy for people who enjoy their faith, but more often than not, they are not content to just be tolerant, that other people don't share their views and therefore feel the need to push their faith. Yeah. And I think that's stronger, you know, in evangelical Christianity too. C says, when you decided he wasn't real, you made that choice. It wasn't a choice. I really wanted to keep believing. And if I'd had a choice, I probably would have kept believing. Do you agree that dying is the same as before you were born? You just don't exist, and that's why we don't have memories of it. Probably. That's my best guess. Yeah, I think so. What do you mean by that? If you'd had the choice, you would have kept believing. So I'm going to use a metaphor here. And please understand, I am not directly comparing God to Santa Claus. I just want to put that out front. But if you can try to remember when you were a little kid and you stopped believing in Santa. And again, I'm just talking about the experience here. But, you know, for many of us, if you remember that moment, like maybe you walked in and saw your parents, you know, putting stuff in the stockings or whatever. And in that moment, you knew that Santa wasn't real. And that part wasn't a choice. And you couldn't go back to your room and just delete that and keep believing. You couldn't unsee what you saw. And so no matter how much you wanted to keep believing in Santa, you couldn't make your brain do that. It's not, you know, whether or not you're convinced that something is true, that part of it isn't a choice. Brad said, so all those people throughout time that kept their faith, it was all for nothing. I don't know what, I mean, that's going to be true of billions of people no matter what, right? There were billions of people who kept their faith in other gods. Is that for nothing? I mean, I certainly think having a religious faith can bring you benefits. You know, it can be really helpful. Okay, Burning Hearts, are you here to learn or are you here to preach? Thanks, David. So if you are asking why I no longer believe, I have a like an FAQ list, and that will give you like my whole backstory. Hi, Ordinary. So this is a place for people who have deconstructed their faith in God. So it's for ex-Christians or ex-Muslims or just ex-deists, and just kind of talking about that process. Dido, if I give you a short summary, I mean, I can, but it probably won't help. I first started questioning the doctrine of hell, and then I started questioning the inerrancy of the Bible, and then I started questioning, is the Bible true? And when I started questioning that, then I questioned if God existed. Um, all right, y'all. I'm gonna have to call it a night. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and oh, thanks, Lem. I think Justin and I are dropping a video on my channel tonight for our ex-evangelical Bible study. And you can also find me over on TikTok. I have the same handle. Hey, Ordinary, I'll be back on Tuesday. And you can find me over on TikTok. I do lives most evenings there. So thank you again. I appreciate your time and have a good night.